Good evening and welcome to the Monday, October 23rd meeting of the City of Tuscaloosa Zoning Board of Adjustment. I'd like to start by making introductions. My name is Rob Stewart. I'm the chairman of the ZBA, and I will start to my left.
Mary Catherine Holt.
Michelle Coley, Vice Chair.
Linda Ford.
Joseph Eatman, Sr.
And I'd like to recognize the city staff who's in attendance with us tonight, starting with Miss Emily Hayes, Associate Director of Planning, Mr. Jonathan Bowen, Neighborhood Resources Coordinator, and from the Office of City Attorney, Miss Kim King, Associate City Attorney, and in the back, Mr. Kevin Jones. He is helping us tonight with the audio and video production. The Board of Adjustment does not have the authority to enact zoning laws or special exceptions, nor does the board have authority to rule on claims of equal protection of the law or the fairness or unfairness of any zoning ordinance. By virtue of state law and city ordinances, the purpose of the ZBA is as follows: to hear appeals from decisions of the zoning officer of the city, to grant special exceptions to the zoning code in accordance with the terms as established by the city council therein, and to grant variances from the terms of the zoning code when owing to the special conditions, a literal enforcement of the code would result in unnecessary hardship. No one factor determines what is a unnecessary hardship, but all relevant factors, when taken together, must indicate that the plight of the property in question is unique and that it cannot be put reasonably to a conforming use because of the limitations imposed upon it by reason of its classification in a specified zone. A working definition of unnecessary hardship is as follows: the property cannot be put to any reasonable use under its current zoning classification. It must be a unique and peculiar difficulty relating to the property of a serious and significant nature. It must relate to the property and not to any personal issues. This includes economic, financial gain or loss. A variance may not be granted where the property owner merely suffers a financial loss of a kind that is common to all of the property owners in the area. Circumstances that are not hardships would be self-inflicted or self-created, inconvenient, or personal. The Zoning Board of Adjustment, by virtue of state law and City of Tuscaloosa ordinance, does not have the jurisdiction or authority to consider, interpret, and/or enforce any term or condition of subdivision covenants and/or homeowner association rules or regulations. These matters are therefore not relevant areas of inquiry by the board on any petition. Such covenants or regulations are between the private parties involved and not the ZBA. That having been said, any decision made by the ZBA on any particular case does not necessarily preclude the enforcement of such subdivision covenants and/or HOA rules or regulation by other lawful means. This is a public hearing. It is being recorded, videotaped, and streaming live on the city's website, Facebook, as well as local cable TV. Proper decorum, civility, and respect for others is required at all times. There are sign-up sheets outside for public comment. 4 speakers are allowed to speak in favor of a petition, and 4 speakers are allowed to speak in opposition of a petition. All speakers will have a maximum of 5 minutes unless the board votes to allow longer time. When you are at the podium, please speak directly into the microphone and state your name and address for the record. All comments should be directed to the board. No questions or comments are to be directed to city staff. I would ask the city staff to confirm for the record that all the appropriate and required public and individual property owner notices for each case upon the docket of petitions now before the board have been made in accordance with the law.
It has.
Thank you. The following procedure will be followed for each petition. This hearing is an opportunity for the petitioner to present their case. for the public to inquire and make their views known about the petition, and for the board members to gather relevant facts before making its decision. City staff will introduce the petition and present facts and information to the board concerning the same. The petitioner or the petitioner's designated representative will be asked to make comments and answer questions from the board. The petitioner will have a maximum of 10 minutes unless the board votes to allow a longer time. The 4 members of the public that are in support of the petition and 4 members of the public that are in opposition to the petition who signed up to speak will then be afforded an opportunity to make inquiries and comments. At the close of public comments, the petitioner will be asked to respond to these comments if necessary. Any rebuttal will be limited to 2 minutes unless the board votes to allow a longer time. The chair may then permit the public to respond, but only to any new issues raised by the petitioner in rebuttal. Any response will be limited to 2 minutes unless the board votes to allow a longer time. At the close of public comment, or once the board is satisfied that it has received all relevant information on a petition, the chairman will close further comment or discussion, and the board will then discuss the matter. The chair will then read into the record the motion to approve the request, along with any conditions set by the board, and the board members will commence voting. 4 votes are required to approve any petition, not a simple majority of the board. Please leave signs in the yard. The staff will pick up the signs as soon as possible. Any party aggrieved by any final judgment or decision of such board of zoning adjustment may within 15 days thereafter appeal therefrom to the circuit court by filing with such board a written notice of appeal specifying the judgment or decision from which the appeal is taken. The board members have had a chance to review tonight's agenda items. Do any of the board members have a conflict of interest with any of the cases on tonight's agenda? No. Ms. Hayes, are there any changes in tonight's agenda? None? Okay.
There are not.
Okay, thank you. And we do have the minutes from September. Okay. The minutes from September 2023 ZBA meeting have been distributed to the members. Have all members had a chance to read over those? Are there any changes? None? Okay. If I could, I need a member to make a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes, September 2023 ZBA minutes, starting with Ms. Holt?
Approved.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. The minutes are approved. And I'd like to ask Ms. King if there are any new updates from the Office of City Attorney.
There are not.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. So our first case, ZBA 11223, has been withdrawn. And moving into our cases to be heard for tonight, starting with ZBA 10723, Shadina Lake petitions for a use variance to operate a daycare center on the property located at 3309 2nd Avenue, zoned R2, Council District 7. So here's an aerial view of that property as well as the zoning. And then a closer aerial view. This is just north of Skowron Elementary. Here's a view of the house from the street, or the existing structure. The applicable regulations, section 24, 32, and 33 are the permitted uses and special exception uses for the residential districts. And as you can see, daycare centers are not listed as a special exception or a permitted use within the residential zoning code. Petitioner is requesting a use variance to operate a daycare center in a residential district. Petitioner was previously approved for a special exception to operate a night care facility at this location with the condition of only 5 or less children at one time. At that time of the special exception request, petitioner was residing in the dwelling. She has since moved out of the residence and wants to convert the structure into a daycare center. The hours of operation will be 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. And according to the petitioner, staffing will consist of a maximum of 5 members, and they expect 30 children. Petitioner estimates there will be enough parking on site to meet the parking needs. Petitioner does expect an increase in traffic during drop-off and pickup times. However, she states that granting the variance will help bring a child care business to the area and neighborhood that could help assist some families in that area. Do you have any questions for staff?
Could you bring the aerial back up, please? Okay, and then back to the street view. So that driveway is a double width,
It is.
and she said in the statement, it's 5 employees
Correct.
and 30 children. All right, thank you. Okay, is Ms. Lake in attendance? If you would come up to the podium, please.
Hello, I'm Shanina Lake. My current address is 10224 Magnolia Court, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, 35405. I was trying to get a daycare center out of the home that I used to live in. Some of the key points of having it is children can attend from the community. There was a home daycare up the street on the corner. It's no longer being operable. The hours are actually 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. is what I'm asking for. There's not another daycare center in that area that opens that early or stay open that late. As far as the parking, the driveway does wrap around the back as well. It goes around the back of the house, so the staff could park on the back. The parents would be able to drive up and drop off and then, leave. The cons of it, I would say would be mostly the traffic. It would be more traffic if we're trying to get 30 kids in there. I was licensed for a home daycare that was 5 kids in the daytime, 5 kids at nighttime. So it was a total of 10 kids that I had when I was staying there. Sorry. We've been told as of now, we have a child care center. It's New Beginning Child Care Center. We've been told by the State Department that Tuscaloosa needs 5 to 6 more child care centers in the area due to the pandemic. So many other child care centers has closed down. So that's why we was looking into open up another one. My house is now vacant, so I just was trying to get it to be another child care center that would help. It can help the kids in the community. There is one more daycare up the road. It's 4 miles away. It's called Kitty World. It's open from 6:30 to 6:30. 6:30 to 6, I'm sorry. So if ours stay open to 7, it would help, parents that work a little later. All parents don't work 9 to 5. So it would help them if, they needed to work a little later. Other than that, in the 35405 area, there's only 14 daycares total in that area. So our center could help out. And that's it.
Ms. Lake, when you had the daycare before, did you have any problem with people dropping their, because it looks like they have to drive up to the front, drop off the kid, and then back out? Mm-hmm. But
No, no, ma'am, we've never had any problems.
And no one lives in the house now, it's vacant?
No, it's vacant at the moment.
And your 5 employees, where would they park?
The driveway also wraps around the back.
Right.
There's a back area, and they could park back there.
So they would park in the back?
Mm-hmm. See, it goes on back around.
Thank you.
Ms. Lake, what type of upgrades are you going to have to do, and what kind of cost is that going to be to get this up to standard to be able to have 30 kids and 5 employees?
We will have to put another door in there. There's 3 doors now, but the fire department requires that there's doors in every area, every room. There should be an exit or entrance, so we will have to put one more door, which I will put it in the front area.
So the only upgrades you'll have to make for this to be DHR compliant would be adding a door.
Adding the door.
And
That's the key from having to have a sprinkler system.
And they've already approved the 30 kids for the square footage of the house?
I have not, because I have to get approval from the planning board before I can submit anything to DHR.
So from my understanding, when you're producing a daycare, that you have to have all types of modifications in terms of you have to have 2 bathrooms that are male or female, handicap, accessibility, and all of that. Is that house already equipped for all that?
You don't have to have the male and female, but it is equipped. It is equipped. It has 3 toilets in there already.
And what about making accessible for handicap or anything like that?
I already have the side of it. When I had the home daycare, there was a little ramp, and that'll be the entrance for the people that are in the wheelchair. On one of the side doors, there's a little ramp area you can go up in for a wheelchair. It's pretty much already daycare accessible because when I lived there previously and had the home daycare, I had to go ahead and get everything up to code.
So the standards for home daycare and for a full daycare are the same?
Pretty much.
You don't have to have any child toys and stuff in the back, playground and stuff in the back?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you asking for 30 because 30 is your limit? Or,
According
how
to
big
the
the house
square
is.
footage of the house, we wouldn't be able to accommodate more than 30.
But you will be able to, with the state regulations, you will be able to accommodate.
I will be
30
able to
square.
accommodate 30.
What is the square footage existing?
It's like 1610.
And I think I understood you to say you had an existing daycare.
I had a home daycare.
Yeah, but do you have another daycare?
Oh, yes, I
offsite?
do. I have a child care center in the Cottondale area
Okay.
now.
Yeah, what kind of structure is it in?
It's a daycare. It's actually a daycare facility.
So it's in a commercial building? Okay. And you have parking there that's
Yes.
adequate? Why, if you have that experience now, has that been successful for you?
Oh, yes. We've operated now for 5 years. We opened up in October 2018.
So you're doing business in assuming it is zoned correctly. Is that in the city or is that in the PJ, Ms. Hayes? Do you know?
Where exactly the,
The existing, she referenced an existing.
My
Where?
existing daycare is 1501 Avalon Drive.
While she's looking that up, but you've had a good experience, is what I'm understanding there.
Yes.
Why are you choosing to go to a 1,600 square foot location that's residential?
We met
surrounded
our
by residents?
capacity for the daycare we have now. We're at capacity. We can, we're licensed for 60 kids, and we're at that number. And we get calls all the time. We have a waiting list of like 33 kids. Also, some of our parents that are there, they're having to drive from all the way from the 69 area of Skylands to come over there to Cottondale, and they're complaining about the drive. So we figured if we put one in Skyland, it'll be like in the middle, and it would be more beneficial to some of our parents as well as the people on our wait list.
And I understand that. You mentioned there was a demand for the service, and you've had good experience, but I guess specifically, you're doing business in an appropriate commercial building, is what you're telling me. But in this case, is it just because you own the property and it's vacant, you're choosing to locate in a business full-time, 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., 5 days a week, amongst an existing established residential neighborhood?
Right.
So that's why you're not going out like other businesses, like you're already doing, in the area and renting a space or buying a space, et cetera.
Right.
Can I ask city staff, have they sent any concerns about the capacity, the 30? I mean, that's kind of what I know there's a big demand for childcare right now in the city. I mean, I know it's definitely needed. I appreciate you
The
trying to
fire
fill the demand, but have they addressed any concerns about, that's kind of where I'm hung up on the 30, to be honest.
yeah, we did receive a comment from the fire marshal, Patrick Steins. He had some overall concerns about converting a residential dwelling into a more commercial use as the daycare. He mentioned specifically that there had been a situation in the past where they had to add an extra door where a window once was to be able to bring it up to that code. So that was really his biggest thing, was just,
What's the door?
yes, being able to change those things around. I will say, the other business we looked it up, it's outside city limits, it's within the city's planning jurisdiction.
Ms. Lake, you lived in the house previous, correct?
Yes.
Have you had any discussions with your neighbors? I mean, 30 is a lot of kids. I mean, I would guess you knew your neighbors.
Well, when I lived there, the most neighbors that I knew that have passed, they're deceased now. These are new neighbors in the neighborhood, but I have spoken to the lady beside me, and I explained to her what I was trying to do. And she was excited about it. She's the only somebody that I brought it to her attention about it.
Okay,
'Cause she has small children as well.
okay, thank you.
So for drop-off, you don't have to make any modifications to have the children dropped off?
I'm sorry, said it.
Will you have to make any modifications for children to be dropped off, 30 children?
Not that I know of now. I can't really do anything as far as fire or the state until I come here first. They sent me here to the planning board first. Although I'm asking for 30, they can always cut that amount when they come in. It's just according to what they're saying, but I couldn't do anything until I've gotten it zoned before they'll come in. Now, he did tell me as far as the structure and them having to come there previously to approve it for me to come have it as a home daycare, he did tell me that I would have to put that door there. That's why I knew the door would have to be there. But other than that, I had everything as far as the smoke detectors and interconnected smoke detectors and the window size, all of that was up to compliance.
Ms. Lake, and you stated you'd lived here prior, and you had a much smaller 5 children in the evening and 5 in the day in the past. You've moved out, you've expressed your business plan and what you're trying to do and a needed demand, but you're asking for a use variance. What you're asking for is not allowed in your current zoning, number one. Number two, it's not allowed by special exception. So you're asking for a use variance. In any type of variance, you have to show hardship. What is a hardship for this board to consider? And were you here when I had my opening comments?
Say that again.
Were you sitting in the audience when the meeting started?
Yes.
Okay, I went through
Yes.
several minutes of a speech we do, kind of outlining how we operate and, and how the board makes its decision. I also specified what a variance is. So to prove you have a variance, you have to meet that tenet. So what is the hardship that we should consider?
The hardship on my part or the hardship
What you're telling us a
there's-
hardship, because you filled out the application and it clearly asked you that. So what is the hardship?
that we need more centers in Tuscaloosa.
Now, that's a business opportunity. We're talking specifically about a residential home is what you're asking for, to use that for something that's not allowed by right. So in saying that, what is the hardship here for you?
Then it wouldn't be a hardship.
Ma'am?
I wouldn't have a hardship.
You wouldn't have a hardship because you could do this anywhere else. You're just picking a place that you happen to own, and I understand that, that's vacant. But based on what I explained, so you're telling us you don't have a hardship.
No.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Lake? Did you have anything else for us?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we do not have anyone signed up to speak either for or against this petition. Is there anyone in the audience who failed to sign up who would like to come to the podium now? Okay, we don't have anyone interested in speaking, so we're going to close public discussion and move to board comments, starting with Ms. Holt.
Ms. Lake, I have 2 young children who are in daycare, so I commend anyone who is trying to add daycare centers in Tuscaloosa, because I agree that there is a deficit in our area. But I have some concerns with putting a daycare in a residential area, based off of the fact that there really isn't a hardship. I would have trouble voting yes for this variance request.
Okay, Ms. Hayes, would you pull up the aerial, please? Again, I will echo Ms. Holt's comments. I think what you're doing, it's an admirable business undertaking. There's definitely a need. My children are grown, but they were also in daycare when they were younger, and it's something you have to have for most of us who are working. In saying that, I think it's a great idea and a great need and a good business opportunity, but not where you've asked for it to go. This is a residential neighborhood, and is there one that's got just the aerial that shows the street in the photograph? Okay. We don't have anyone from the Office of Engineering today with us this evening, so I don't know the actual width of the right-of-way of that street. And
So we can measure it. Typically, within the special exception criteria, it mentions that a daycare should be located on a major collector or a arterial. This is a local street, so it's just on that smaller scale.
Thank you. And I assume that, but I wanted to get that opinion. The street is truly designed, as you know, was platted as a residential subdivision. You don't have turn lanes, you don't have sidewalks. The only egress, if you could go to the street view, please. You've got a sloped driveway that would require someone to pull in, and I don't know how many people could be there at one time. We all know how the ebb and flow of dropping off kids at a daycare goes. When you pull in, you're on a slope, you'd be required to back out into the street. I don't think you have anyone doing traffic control. I didn't hear that offered. But it would be creating issues for your neighbors and anyone else using the public street. I just think, and then ultimately, we asked you about a hardship, and you had none to offer. Based on those factors, and really just not a good fit for where you have requested it, I'm not in favor of granting the use variance.
Ms. Lake, we really need daycares. If I could vote yes on this, I would definitely want to do it, but just where it is, the street that, like you mentioned, just being able to pull in, the chaos that that's going to cause in this area, this is not the place for it, but there definitely is a need, and we do encourage you to find a location to open your second location. But this one right here, we don't see a hardship, because you could easily just rent it out, use it as a rental property, and rent it out to someone to live in. So there's no hardship to justify us saying yes to the variance. So not at this time on this property.
I really do appreciate also the trying to get daycares. I know they've always been in need. I have 4 children that I've had to deal with daycare while they were young, and it's very difficult to find a good one. But I still have a problem with the driveway. To me, that is not safe, and especially if you're going to have 30 or up to 30. They really can't park on the street without stopping traffic. So because of those reasons, I'm not in favor.
I just want to first echo what everybody else is saying. It's like, I work in education myself, so I personally know the need for daycare, and I also personally know that we are going to start getting some in-home daycares that come up around the city of Tuscaloosa. My hang-up right now is 1 to 30, approving the 30. I'm just going to be honest with you. And 2, as well as the kind of, like my fellow board member said, the driveway. I think if there was a circle driveway, less kids, and if there was some type of hardship with this house, I think we would definitely say yes. So I appreciate what you do, but I'm going to have to agree with my fellow board members on this one.
Okay, if there are no further comments, we're going to close board discussion and move to a reading of the petition, followed by a vote. In the matter of ZBA-107-23, Shanina Lake petitions for a use variance to operate a daycare center on the property located at 3309 2nd Avenue, zoned R2 in Council District 7, voting with Ms. Holt.
No.
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 No. The petition failed.
Okay, we'll move into our next case, ZBA 10823, Night Sign Industries petitions for a variance from the freestanding sign restrictions to construct a sign on the property located at 401 University Boulevard East, zoned BN, Council District 4. So here's an aerial view of that property as well as the zoning. This is over near the University of Alabama campus. And then a closer aerial view of that property. Here is a view of that building, which is very new. That's why it doesn't show up in that aerial view. And the view kind of as you're looking down that street and then back the other way. Applicable regulations, section 24-135, permitted and allowed signs. We do limit freestanding signs to 1 per parcel, except those that are double frontage. This one is not, it does have just a single street frontage. Petitioner is requesting a variance to construct 2 freestanding signs, a pylon sign and a monument sign. Petition states that the area is highly dense with traffic and has a large number of trees affecting visibility. The trees are located in the city's right-of-way and they can only be removed by the city. Petitioner further states the additional pylon and monument will allow the public to make the decision to safely turn into the property in a timely manner. This is a view of that monument sign, a view of that pylon sign. And then in this B, so this is the pylon and this is the monument. The petitioner does have some photos that they would like to provide as well as the video. I'll let them come up and speak about that though, if you have any questions for me.
And Ms. Hayes, I believe you stated these belong to the city, Tuscaloosa?
The trees do.
And they're
Yeah,
in
they're
the
in the
city's
right-of-way.
existing right-of-way, okay.
Correct.
Are there any plans by the city to remove these trees?
There have not been any mention of those being removed.
Are there any plans to plant more trees like that down University?
Without looking at the actual plan of the streetscape, I don't believe I remember seeing any addition. As you go through there, there really isn't a lot, there's a lot of curb cuts that don't really allow for any areas to plant more trees, any landscape islands as you're going down that portion of University. So likely no.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm Cal Holt, cousin, nice to see you. I'm president of Knight Sign Industries, 5959 Knight Avenue, and representing Alabama Credit Union in this case. I'd like to also introduce the Chief Operating Officer, June Landrum, who is here with Alabama Credit Union, and their Marketing Director as well, Jasmine Howard. We have a video to show. Hopefully this will make sense to you. What we're faced with because of the trees, you've got multiple businesses right in a row that have various traffic patterns. And with the addition of Starbucks, there's a lot of options of where to turn in. And there are times of the day when traffic is backed out into Bryant Boulevard going into Starbucks. So as we're heading east now, you'll see Arby's and Starbucks. You see them turn into Nukes, turn into right there. We buffering, or you just playing with me?
Just trying to make it real difficult.
You're doing. Well, I'm trying to show you this. Seeing the entrances to the facility. Also, the building you can see, there's no doubt. But there's a lot of other stuff you see as well. You're driving 30 miles an hour. If you stop right there. All right. This entrance going, I don't know if you can see it or not, but the entrance where there's a break right there. The median across the way is not a cut through. Okay, so if you're coming west, you cannot turn in there. You have to go all the way down and come back around. And again, if the traffic is backed up at Starbucks, then you're down to one lane. And then we're backing up traffic on the other side of the road. So that makes that not an ideal entrance, right, to the facility. Now, if we can go on east, Emily, please. Okay, right here, right by Chevron. That is what is going to be the main entrance, all right?
So there
we're-
is a cut in the median that
Yeah,
allows
well,
left
the median
turns.
has not started at that point.
So a left turn in is allowed.
Left turn is allowed, so that is why that would be, there you go, the main entrance, and why we're showing the monument sign there. And as we come west, you'll see why we're promoting that. Now, we're going by the hospital. The property be on your left as we proceed. It's a green light, Emily, we can go. Here we go. Begin looking to your, on the left side, below the billboard are those trees.
We're just driving real slow tonight.
I can try. Do it, if it'll help you. But you see the Chevron sign there, as you go back next is Warren Tire, all right? You cannot see the building at all coming west until you get almost to this point, okay? Letters on the building would work fine, but there's not anything saying to turn here. That's why we're suggesting signs, people are looking for something of that nature to direct them into.
Well, it looks like it doesn't want to load.
That's fine. If you go back to the monument sign there, Emily, there, great. Okay, you see there where the median starts in the turn lane there? So you can get in there. And this is directing traffic, again, coming west into that area. Now, if we can show the other proposed sign, please. All right, here. The only place we can put it, and the only place you can see anything going east. There's no place to put letters on the building on that side except at the far end past the windows. And again, you wouldn't see it till you got up on it. No trees, not an issue.
And Ms. Hayes, without having to look at that path again, it appears from, can you go to an aerial? So it appears that on that side of University, that's the only strip of trees in front of the building.
That's correct.
And the trees can't be relocated?
I'm sorry?
The trees can't be relocated?
They're the city's trees.
The city can't relocate?
They're in the right of way. There's no plan for the city to remove them anytime. As you're going down that portion of going into the university, there's a lot of trees in front of the fraternity houses that are on that side, which indicates even more. I don't think there's any plan to remove those.
Ms. Hayes, do you know of any other circumstances where two signs have been allowed?
Not off the top of my head. I know there have been instances on Skyland where we've seen the T signs that were very recently approved, but I can't think of any that have been approved with two. Mr. Holt is very experienced in the sign world. He may have some better knowledge than I do.
To my knowledge, no. But again, there's a hardship here that's very different in the fact you cannot see the building for the trees. And it'll be a traffic hazard on a very busy road.
Mr. Holt, the design of the monument sign,
Yes,
is
sir.
that in character with
Their
what you would
corporate-
put? So it's
It's their corporate standard.
okay. But would that comply outside of the second sign? with The
Yes.
city's existing regulation to the
Yes.
monument sign?
I always ask him,
Did you have anything else for us?
I'm here to answer any questions.
So each sign on its own conforms, it's just having the two signs where it
Right,
makes it.
instead of
where you
one.
have to-
Correct.
Okay.
And part of this, and this is a stretch, okay? If you look at that property from this view and can picture Starbucks there now, and that road that cuts through goes all the way through. Now, it is not by definition a city street, but it is a frontage. Okay, then you would have two frontages of which the signs would be allowed.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Holt? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we do not have anyone signed up to speak either for or against this petition. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forward at this point to speak? Okay, no. Then we will move to close public comment and move to board discussion.
So I actually drive this portion of University every single day, and there's been a lot of development, even just this summer, along that portion of University. I appreciate when we do develop property leaving mature landscaping, so I actually like that the trees are there. But I can tell you that there are a lot of curb cuts, a lot of changes in that portion of University, to where I can see between the trees and just navigating all the entrances to the building there, where there is a hardship and there is a need for this. I also, that first video that did play, when you're going east on University, you capture the Butler Field sign, Arby's had an exit sign, Nukes, and Starbucks. All of them had signs that is in keeping with the scale of this. So I think scale-wise it's appropriate. So generally I have no issues with adding both signs.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Holt's comments. Ms. Holt. I was thinking of Mr. Holt, but Ms. Holt's comments. But the trees are an issue. The city, and I asked that to city staff, I seriously doubt, I wouldn't bet any money on the city is going to remove any trees out of the right-of-way. If you drive around the city, and you can see them out the window now through the screening, our city has done a good job with the tree plantings. And when you compare cities that have a cool factor and a good look, Greenville, South Carolina, to name one, we have done a good job. So when you move around the city, you look at the Bryant Drive from University all the way to downtown, the undergrounding, that was a three-party effort. It's still going on, continuing on this corridor all the way out University. It's very intentional. It's hard to go back, as Ms. Hayes said, there are places they can't plant in the right-of-way because of curb cuts and egress. But these are here. Hopefully the city will continue to maintain and trim them. But the sign that was the rendering of the 25-foot sign on the west end, that in the picture before you, you can't see that coming down. Trees will continue to grow. The canopy will expand. That's a given. So I think in this case, the true hardship is coming from the east, you don't have a wayfinding, and that where that location is, just by necessity, to be the main point of egress into the property with an allowable centerline curb cut that exists today in the median or lack of median. I think that's the hardship there. And we all know with the traffic in this area, it will only get worse. And you've got Starbucks there now, and that's something to deal with. So I think it's warranted in this specific case. I'm in favor of granting the variance.
I see the hardship. The city won't remove trees. We don't want them to remove trees. You need to be able to see to get to the business, so I do agree that there is a hardship, and so I do see the need.
I really had a hard time seeing the hardship until you showed the video. This is a very unique place, I think, and that's why you're here. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. I'm not really for having two signs, but I do think that this is extremely unique, and I doubt that we'll see, if any, cases like this. So under those circumstances of it being unique and peculiar, I am in favor.
I agree with my fellow board members. I'm in favor.
Okay, if there are no other comments from the board, we will close board discussion and move to a reading of the petition, followed by a vote. In the matter of ZBA-108-23, Night Sign Industries petitions for a variance from the freestanding sign restrictions to construct a sign on the property located at 401 University Boulevard East, zoned BN in Council District 4, voting with Ms. Holt.
Yes.
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 Yes. The petition passed.
Okay, we'll move on to our next case, ZBA 10923. Natasha Harris petitions for a special exception to operate a daycare center on the property located at 6614 Highway 69 South, zoned BN, Council District 2. So here's an aerial view of that property as well as the zoning. And then a closer aerial view. Here is a view from the street. Just a few views of that parking lot area. The applicable regulations, the special exception criteria for daycare centers, safe and convenient driveway shall be provided. All loading and unloading should take place on the premises and not on the street. Discretionary, as I was mentioning earlier, it should be on a major collector or arterial street. Intensive commercial activity or heavy traffic should be avoided typically. Petitioner is requesting a special exception to continue to operate a daycare center. This property may look familiar. If not, this property was previously approved for a special exception to operate a daycare center in this location to the petitioner's sister. The petitioner is now coming in, and what we heard earlier, the state will not grant any licenses without the city's approval first. So that is why the petitioner is requesting this. The daycare is offered to children ages 6 weeks up to 12 years. Per the petitioner, by opening early and closing late, the establishment daycare will be substantial for first responders and educators to be able to work and provide services for their employment. Hours of operation will be Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. Do you have any questions for staff?
I know this is a different petitioner. This was previously approved by the board. Were there any issues related to safety here or any other issues the city's aware of
They're not.
previously? Okay.
No.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Natasha Harris, and I'm here to petition for a daycare center. As you previously just got finished talking about, it is a need for it. And I would say that because 69 South is a growing community where we have the families further down. We have the school, which is Shelton State. We have a lot of families in that neighborhood. And because we do open at 5 o'clock and we would close at 6, that would be good for parents to be able to drop their kids off early and pick them up late. Also giving opportunities for parents or other people that are certified in this area, which is childcare, to be able to have job opportunities. As she just stated, it was previously a daycare, so everything is already up to code. The previous daycare owner, she just moved to a larger location, and I'm here to petition again to open up a childcare center there again.
Ms. Harris, Ms. Hayes, could you go to the aerial, please? Ms. Harris, do you have a plan for the flow when a parent comes into the property, onto the property, where they would drop the child and pick up the child?
Okay, so we have an entrance that when they come in, that they will go around, because you can see that the parking space is open enough to be able to serve at least 40 cars, but they'll drive around to the front entrance where the where the entrance is located, and then someone will be able to get their child from and they'll be able to move around. You can see clearly where the space is open in between the lines of the cars, so that they'll be able to go in and come back around.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, none? Okay. Did you have anything else for us?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we do not have anyone currently signed up to speak either for or against. This time, is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forward and speak? Okay. We have no one, so we will close public comment and start board discussion with Ms. Holt.
So as I mentioned with the first variance that we discussed this evening, I commend anyone opening a daycare because we definitely need those services. This one is a little different than the first one, and because of where it's located, the amount of ample parking in front of the building, I see, and the fact that it was a daycare previously, I have no issues with the special exception.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Holt's comments. I think it's a good fit for the business. Obviously, there's a need. Ms. Harris is, taking advantage of that and offering a very needed service and job creator in the community. But I believe from her plan, her drop-off plan, she articulated there's ample room off-street, well off the highway for customers or parents to come in and drop their children safely, and then in turn pick them up on the back end. And I think it's a good fit. And we, just for the record, we have previously approved a different operator in the past to do business in the same way here. I'm in favor.
So you can see we are pro daycare. We do want daycares in the area. This fits what we're thinking about, being able to off the road, even if the kid were to get out, they have a lot of space before they can get to the road. So this is what a daycare facility looks like for 30 or more kids when we think about that. So I'm in favor of approving the special exception.
I'm also in favor. The only problem that I even don't see here is the parking. And I guess you'll probably line out or put cones up as to how people come in and leave. So I'm in favor.
I agree with my fellow board members. I'm in favor. And again, thank you for addressing a big need that we have in our community.
Okay, if there are no further comments from the board, we'll move to a reading of the petition followed by a vote. In the matter of ZBA-109-23, Natasha Harris petitions for a special exception to operate a daycare center on the property located at 6614 Highway 69 South, zoned BN in Council District 2, voting with Ms. Holt.
Yes.
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 The petition passed.
Okay, moving on to our next case of the night, ZBA 11023, McCurry Van and Car Rental LLC petitions for a special exception to operate an automobile rental agency on the property located at 405 Skyland Boulevard East, zoned BN, Council District 7. So here's an aerial view of that property as well as the zoning. It's just south of Skyland Elementary. And then a closer aerial view. Here's a view from the parking lot. This was most recently an American Car Center. Just some more views of the area. The applicable regulations. So I wanted to just throw out there that in our zoning definitions, we do classify car sales, leasing, and rental all in one definition. So that is pulling over to our special exception motor vehicle sales agency. This property, again, was previously approved for a special exception to operate that car rental or the car sales. So there is currently a 6-foot fence that is along that property line that abuts the residential district. Petitioner is requesting a special exception to operate a car rental agency. Per the petitioner, they plan to hire 5 full-time employees. They will operate Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. The property, again, was previously approved, so that's why it is set up in the way that it is. Per the petitioner, they do plan to store 20 to 30 vehicles on the lot for inventory. Petitioner further states they have 4 additional locations throughout the state of Alabama, and they pride themselves on being involved in the communities that they are in. Do you have any questions for staff?
And just to clarify, Ms. Hayes, the only reason they're coming because BN doesn't allow it outright by right.
Correct. It's a special exception in the BN district.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Wes McCurry. Our home office is in Athens at 27445 Highway 72. As she was saying, we have 4 stores. We're in Coleman, Muscle Shoals, Huntsville, and Athens. We love the interstate access to Skyland Boulevard. It was, with the first time, well, I'm down there all the time with my kids and whatnot, but I knew that's where we wanted to be, was Skyland. We do a whole lot of business with the new car stores when there's recalls or warranty work. And just about every market we're in, we do business with all the new car stores, supplying rental cars for them. We do a whole lot with the school systems. We have UAH, Alabama A&M, UNA, Wallace State, Oakwood, and the school, like the regular school systems, people, the tennis teams or debate teams taking our vans to different places. The university's called us a few different times, and we haven't been able to work something out. But now that we're local, I feel like we will be able to as well. We have over 200 churches that we do business with throughout the state. And a lot of churches will drive. We've had churches from Opelika, Montgomery, all kinds of areas come to get our passenger vans for youth groups and ministry work. The businesses that we FedEx and UPS, we have a majority of the business at the Masters, a couple other golf tournaments. Our vans go all over the place. We also do some accident replacement. I've got 3 girls that go to school here. One just graduated, and she's getting her master's, and she teaches at she's teaching at the Tuscaloosa Magnet School, and then got a junior and a sophomore that will they'll kind of work there a little bit as well. And I have a place here, so I'll be down here a good bit to help manage and make sure it goes smoothly. Any questions?
So you've already put a lot of money in the community, is what you're saying, with the 3 girls going to school.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Now, my only question was, it's strictly rental though, no sales? Just
No, we do no car sales. When we sell a car, we typically just take them to the auction.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Well, you mentioned Skyland, and that is our automotive corridor, both for sales of new and used up and down Skyland, and also for your competitors in the rental business. So good choice of location. Sounds like you've been in the business from 4 other locations.
Yes, sir.
And, to your point, you're active in the community. I think it'll be a good addition. And the site itself lends well to it. It's been approved for a similar use for the car sales side of it, but a good fit on that corridor.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. We do not have anyone signed up to speak either for or against the petition. If anyone would like to come forward at this point and speak, now is your opportunity. Okay, we do not have anyone interested in speaking, so we are going to close public comment and move to board discussion, starting with Ms. Holt.
I think Skyland is a great location for the car rentals, and Because this actual location was a similar function previously, I have no issues with the special exception.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Holt. I think it's a good fit. It's a great tax generator for the city on the sales side up and down that corridor, and everyone in the business has migrated there, so I think it'll go over well. I'm in favor of granting the special exception.
Another business that's really needed, rental cars. We need more and more of those places now. So I'm definitely in favor. It fits the area and it's needed.
I'm also in favor. I think it's a perfect location. I have no problem with it.
I agree with my fellow board members. I'm in favor.
Okay, if there are no further comments from the board, we'll move to a reading of the petition and followed by a vote. In the matter of ZBA-110-23, McCurry Van and Car Rental LLC petitions for a special exception to operate an automobile rental agency on the property located at 405 Skyland Boulevard East, Zone BN, in Council District 7, voting with Ms. Holt.
Yes.
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 Yes. The petition passed.
Okay, moving on to ZBA 11123. Adolph Wilkinson petitions for a variance from the accessory structure regulations to construct a carport on the property located at 3615 32nd Court, zoned R3, Council District 2. Here's an aerial view of that property as well as the zoning. And this is kind of near Metro Animal Shelter. That's just to the east of this property. Here's a view of the front of the house and then the rear of the property. The applicable regulations, section 2439, location of accessory structures on residential lots. Those regulations do state that accessory structures shall not be erected in the required front or side yard. In addition, for any lots that are adjacent to a residential district, no accessory structures may be built within 60 feet of a front lot line. Petitioner is requesting a variance from the accessory structure regulations in order to construct a covered carport in the backyard of the property. The carport will be 18 feet in height and 20 feet by 20 feet, or approximately 400 square feet in area. The carport will have a metal roof supported with steel posts and will be open on 4 sides. This property is unique. As you can see from that aerial view, it is considered both a corner lot and a through lot, so it has frontage on 3 sides. This does not allow for a buildable area for the carport, as the zoning ordinance prohibits the construction of accessory structures in the required front or side yard. So here is a view of that, just a hand-drawn site plan. This is where that garage is going to be. As you can see, it's about 36 feet from that southern property line, 21 feet from the eastern. Do you have any questions for staff?
So it's considered to have 3 front yards.
Correct. It's got 3 frontages.
And typically, we deal with this on a typical corner lot, then you have 2 front yards.
Correct.
It comes to play, but this is very different. So there's nowhere at all on this property they could build it, because to the north, you're abutting a side easement.
Correct.
All right, any other questions? Ms. Hayes? None? Thank you. Mr. Wilkinson?
Good evening. Adolph Wilkinson, 3615 32nd Court.
Mr. Wilkinson, could you pull the microphone closer to you just a bit?
Okay.
Okay. And just speak into that. We'll be able to hear you.
All right. Adolph Wilkinson, 3615 32nd Court. I wanted a carport because I bought 2 new vehicles. And I do have a older vehicle, and I wanted to cover because I don't want the new vehicles to get damaged by hail. I just restored a 1976 Chevrolet Malibu, and the last hailstorm that came through, it did damage a little bit. And I don't have a cover. I just want to put the carport in the backyard so it could protect the vehicles.
Ms. Hayes, could you go to the aerial again, please? Okay, Mr. Wilkinson, so when you enter, just so we're clear on the location, looking at the picture in front of you, when you
Yeah.
come in your drive, you would peel off to the right?
Yes.
And go around the end of the house? And you
Right.
would set it behind the house?
Right.
Okay, as you're rendering, hand-drawn. Right.
Now, are you going to put any gravel or anything leading up to it?
No, it's ground pretty hard back there. I'm not gonna put any gravel in it.
Ms. Hayes, what, in absence of Mr. Gardner being here tonight, what is required for as far as a ground surface? If this is approved, what would be required, if anything?
So in this situation, obviously the city engineer would typically say, obviously I'm not an engineer, but they would typically say that it does need to be improved. The parking area should be improved. We've seen in other cases, the Office of the City Engineer has highly recommended that the board put a condition on adding the gravel. In this situation, the zoning ordinance does not allow for additional gravel to be put down, so it would be something that only the board could require.
Okay, so by the zoning ordinance, it is not a specified requirement
Correct.
for a ground cover. Are there any questions for Mr. Wilkinson? None? Do you have anything else for us, Mr.
No.
Wilkinson? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we do not have anyone signed up to speak either for or against this petition. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forward and speak? Yes, ma'am. You can come forward.
Hello, I'm Nancy Wilkinson. I am his wife. And just, to me, it'd be very beneficial. I know they say that it's against the ordinance for it to be put there, but it would fit us because we would love to have the vehicles protected. My husband worked for so many years, 40-some years, 44 years on a job and bought vehicles for himself and I. You know, just something because he was blessed to have them. And so we just need help, and we would love to have it there just for the protection so we can take care of what we have. And we appreciate if you all consider it.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Hayes, did we have any emails? You may have been getting ready to segue in there.
I was. We did receive 5 written comments in support of this application.
All right, thank you. And just for the audience's benefit, we do get those and we all read those, everything that's submitted, either for or against, to the board. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward and speak? No? Okay, then at this point, we're going to close public comment and move to board discussion, starting with Ms. Holtz.
This is a unique property, given that it has 3 front yards. That's what we determined? Typically, I would not be in favor of an accessory structure in a front yard, but I see the hardship that you are working with, and if you did not have 3 front yards, this would be constructed in what would be the backyard of the property. And because of that, I don't have an issue with the request.
I agree with Ms. Holt's comments. This is extremely unique. It is very rare that you find a property that is bordered on three sides by public streets. It's much more common in a neighborhood, a typical corner house in a subdivision, and even that is a challenge when you go to do anything else, but you are held to the setbacks of a front yard of what's allowed or not, and a larger setback. So this, very, very unique. I'm in favor of granting it. I don't see it causing any harm, and if not, the petitioner would have zero option of building any other structure there. And based on that, that is a true hardship that is unique to this property per the code. So I'm in favor of granting the granting the variance.
I'm in favor as well. Only condition I see is that I do think that you need to put gravel or something going to the carport in the back. I feel like you talked about wanting to protect your investment going from your driveway around to the back when it rains and so forth. That's going to become an issue. I think for the neighborhood, it being a corner lot, you need to put some type of improvement there going from your driveway to that round the back of the house.
I'm also in favor. It's very rare that you see a house that has 3 front yards, and understand your pride in having your cars and wanting to protect them. And I don't see any other option at all that you could do. So I am in favor.
I agree with my fellow board members. I definitely see the hardship. There's nowhere else you can build it, and I think that's a perfect spot for it. And I also appreciate you wanting to upgrade your property and invest in your property and protect your investment in your vehicle. So I definitely see the hardship, and I'm in favor as well.
Just one last comment. Mrs. Coley has stated her desire to add that which, as Ms. Hayes said, is the right. It is not required and specified that you add any service. And I know, Mr. Wilkinson, you did reference it's hard packed ground there, but we all know it's dry now and it's very hard packed. But living where we do, when it does start to rain and ruts develop, I think that becomes an issue in your yard, but from an aesthetics for your neighbors who see it, unfortunately, on 3 sides coming around, I think that is a fair condition we can put on there. And I agree with Ms. Coley there. And again, it's not concreted that's required. It's just a gravel strip, car width strip to get into the garage. And I think that would serve you and your neighbors well. So I do recommend, I will add that condition when I read the petition. Is there any other discussion from the board? None? Okay, I'll move to a reading of the petition followed by a vote. In the matter of ZBA-111-23, Adolph Wilkinson petitions for a variance from the accessory structure regulations to construct a carport on the property located at 3615 32nd Court, zoned R3 in Council District 2, subject to the following condition. It will be required of Mr. Wilkinson to put in a gravel drive when he leaves the current paved drive around the house to the carport. Voting with Ms. Holt.
Yes.
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 Petition passed.
Moving on to our next case, ZBA 11323, Randall Shoemaker petitions for a variance from the accessory structure regulations to construct a carport on the property located at 64 Cherokee Hills, zoned R1 in the Estate Lot Conservation Overlay District, zoned Council District 6. So here's an aerial view of that property as well as the zoning. Just some background on what the Estate Lot Conservation Overlay District is the idea is to create more of these larger estate lots, minimum of 2 acres. Here's a closer aerial view of that property. Here is a view at the front of the house. So this accessory structure has already been constructed. And this is the carport. The applicable regulations, again, the location of accessory structures cannot be placed in the required front or side yard, as well as cannot be located 60 feet from any front lot line. Petitioner is requesting a variance from the accessory structure regulations in order to maintain a recently constructed carport that is less than 60 feet from the front lot line. The carport is 7 feet in height and 20 feet by 26 feet, or approximately 520 square feet in area. Per the petitioner, the carport allows for 2 vehicles to be stored underneath it, and it protects vehicles from the neighbor's large tree nuts hitting the vehicle, causing damage and costly repairs. Per the petitioner, the hardship is that a literal enforcement of the code, not allowing a carport to protect vehicles. In order to meet the code, the petitioner states it would require cutting down bushes and plants, in addition to adding an extra 15 feet of concrete, which in turn creates an additional hardship and expense. Do you have any questions for staff?
I know we had a lot of emails in support and in opposition. Do you have a?
We received 6 emails in support and 4 in opposition.
Go back, if you could, to that aerial, please. When, Action Street View, I'm sorry, it shows it better, yes. And this was a current picture, correct?
Correct.
When this was constructed, I believe that it was around Labor Day of '23, is that right? I read that in the packet. Was a permit required to construct this
A
here?
permit is required to install a carport.
Okay. Was a permit requested, or?
It was not.
Okay, so this construction happened without permission from the city?
Correct.
Okay. And this is a typical lot as far as the street frontage, where it has only one front yard?
Correct.
Okay. And 60 foot, it needs to be a minimum of 60 foot
From that
off
front
of the
lot
street
line.
to be allowed in the front yard,
Correct.
per the code?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Ms. Hayes?
And currently, how many feet did we determine that it is? Right now, it's 15?
It's approximately 35 to 40-ish feet.
So basically, it would need to be on the side of the house to hit 60, most likely?
Correct. A little bit closer to the side of the house.
Okay.
Petitioner did also submit some additional photos of the tree nuts as well as the trees. Do you have any additional questions for me?
That particular tree is on that property, correct, or on the next door neighbor's property?
Correct, is
Okay.
the neighbors, according to the petitioner.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Schumacher?
My name is Randall Schumacher. I reside at 64 Cherokee Hills. I've just learned something new before I start my talk. I had called the city, and they said a petition was not required. I had 2 neighbors that had also constructed carports, and they had also told me that when they constructed their carports, which are two neighbors over from me, they did not require a permit, and they built wooden carports. And so I'm a bit confused and yet ignorant that I was told I didn't need a permit when I called the city, and I talked to neighbors, they didn't get a permit either, so.
Let me stop you, and I won't hurt your time at all. Ms. Hayes, don't know what was said when Mr. Schumacher states he calls, but no matter what someone did or didn't do in the past, currently involving this case, what is the specification requirement of a homeowner to construct what he constructed?
To construct a metal carport, it does require a building permit. I don't know the residential building code. I know with our permit administrators, they know it a little bit better, and so it could be that a different material, maybe a wood, wouldn't require it, but typically what we have always seen is metal or any other type of carport does require a residential building permit.
Thank you. And just for clarity and any confusion, I can't control that, but that is the case forward and is the case when this was built. But go ahead.
If the city had told me when I called that a permit was required, I would have come down and got a permit. I was not informed of that.
Did they
So
tell you anything about the setback or anything, that you needed to be 60 feet off?
They
None-
did not. They
None of
did
that?
not. So I'm really here requesting a use variance. When the contractor put the driveway in, if I could get a street view, my photo of my street view, I wanted to comment about that. When, I think it's called street view on the photos. I'd like to have mine, please. My street view. And if you could, I guess that's fine. When the contractor put the driveway in, if you'll notice that between the tree and those bushes on the other side, there was an area to pour cement to make a carport. I put a carport up and also park vehicles there. Mr. Palmer, my neighbor, I talked to him about that. He had no objection to it at the time. You can also see from this view that we're not a typical neighborhood. There's no sidewalks. The mailboxes are not on the house. I measured from the street to the side of the carport, it's 45 feet. If I had to go another 15 feet, it is sloped down. I'd have to remove all the bushes and trees and pour another 15 feet of cement to move the carport further down toward the house. The carport is actually 20 feet wide and 16 feet long, 7 feet tall. I know that the staff had indicated it was 26 feet. It's actually 20 by 16 by 7. And it was designed to be aesthetic with the house, as you can see. If you could show, I have a couple carport pictures as well. Do you have those? Kind of gives a front view of it. I can tell that these pictures were taken after I had pulled the car out to go to work. That's why I was wanting to show the ones that I submitted. By the way, if I need a permit, can I get that after the fact? Or do I have to take the structure down and then apply for a permit to put it back up again?
Ms.
That's
Hayes,
a-
would you like to respond to that?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Well, since I was told when I called I didn't need a permit, and now you're saying I do, can I now go get a permit if the use variance is approved?
If the variance is approved, yes, sir, you could get
Okay.
one. That would be something that we'll check in with the permanent administrators and the building department, and they
Okay.
can get you set up with that.
All right, well, I appreciate that, thank you. Do you find the front photos? While we're waiting, I also submitted repair bills because I've had a problem with damage to my vehicles in the driveway and also in this parking area off to the side. As you can see, we're in a neighborhood with a lot of trees, and they are full of different kinds of hickory and pecan and oak, acorns. Even trying to park in the driveway has been a challenge. A hardship exists. As you can see, when the staff put up the tree photos showed you that the trees are, I'm guessing 80 feet, maybe 100 feet. And they line the property. My neighbor's trees are along the side of my property. They are arched over this way. So my photos try to show how the trees are growing this way and drop all the nuts, causing damage to my vehicles. I don't know if you can find those photos. A hardship is present. Yeah, you can see the trees here, how tall they are and how they're arched over. They're bending toward, I guess that would be the east, and over the top of my driveway and the carport and in that general area. A hardship is present, and I need the carport to protect my vehicles. The 60 feet, it is 45 feet. The 60 feet is kind of keeping me from reasonable protection for damage to my vehicles. And what I did is, this is the photo, but I think sometimes if you have whole box of them too. It's okay, I got a whole box of them here, I don't know how many I would need.
What's it? Mrs. Nuts, stop being nuts.
That was open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The variance request is in harmony with the general purpose and use of a carport. Having to move an additional 15 feet sloping downhill and cutting down bushes and plants would be an additional hardship. The hardship really is trying to protect my new vehicles from damage. My garage only holds one vehicle, and so I'm at a loss of how to protect any other vehicle or any other property I have, like a riding lawnmower and things like that. And you notice in the one picture, I had a trailer sitting there protecting it. The carport has been erected since Labor Day, as you noted, and it's not injurious to neighbors. It doesn't impede city traffic. It's not detrimental to public welfare. It's not in the front lawn. It's not in the front yard. It's off to the side. And it's caused quite a controversy, as apparently you've noted, 6-4 against. And that's typical of our neighborhood. People take real issue whenever you're trying to do something a little different. But then that neighborhood is heavily forested, and people have 3, 4, 5 acre lots. Many of the houses are set off the street. I have 2 neighbors that built wooden carports just to protect themselves. And so I would really like your consideration. Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Schumacher. Just curious, when did you move to the house? Have you lived there?
2007, I believe. August of 2007, we purchased it.
So, and I know I have very large trees behind my home in that range, 70 to probably 90 feet, mature oaks mainly across the back. And I moved in 20 plus years ago, and they weren't a whole lot of different size then. These are big around, like similar to what you've got. So I do know that issue. But when you moved in, I was assuming the trees were fairly mature and large when you moved in.
You're talking 17, 18 years of
True,
growth. That's
true.
quite a bit of tree growth.
Oh, I know, but I know your neighborhood, and also know the trees, just, as an example, behind my home, which are towering.
Right.
But, so they weren't immature young trees then? They probably got.
No, they weren't, and I had a very rough gravel driveway.
Right.
It wasn't a cement driveway, and that's an expense and improvement that I had probably within the last, maybe, 8 years. So that cement slab has been there. It wasn't done recently. It was done when the driveway was poured.
Yeah, I looked at a Google Street View, and it had, depending on the view, it went back quite a while, several years. So I got to see kind of a time lapse and seasonal when the leaves were down. And one was while your construction was ongoing for the driveway.
Okay.
So that pad was there well before this, to your point. Do you happen to have either one staff has or the petitioner has that shows a view from the street to the garage? So a true street view in, okay. There, if you would, go back one, please. Thank you. Looking at your house, the trash can, that corner of the garage, the right side of
Yes.
the house, what, is that pavement that goes back?
I had pavement poured there for drainage purposes. Since the house slopes downhill, there's been a major issue I've been fighting, which is the flooding of the street. And in front of the garage, I had to put in a drainage grate, and I had to construct the water to come around the side. And so to prevent it from further flooding the garage,
Right.
I had to pour cement there.
Okay. Is that a cover or an awning that comes off the house?
That is a covered area that the riding lawnmower and other equipment I have is parked underneath. Again, my neighbor's trees drop all kinds of nuts and everything there as well, and so I wanted to protect those.
And you stated that this garage we're looking at only holds one car?
One vehicle.
So it's not a width for two if it was empty?
I wish it was, and it's not, unfortunately.
And then you mentioned part of what I took, trying to take notes, in part of your hardship to get to the allowable setback that's required, the 60-foot setback, you would have to take out, I'm assuming these bushes we're looking at past, okay?
Yeah, everything you're looking at, all that would have to be removed, and all those bushes, mature bushes and plants and everything all have to be leveled.
Okay. And the concrete, just so I'm clear, the concrete where the pad, where the current shed we're looking at, carport, the brown roofed carport, where it sits, that concrete was there when you did the concrete driveway.
Yes, the cement parking area off to the right, and then the cement around the side of the garage was all poured at the same time.
Okay.
And it was done for drainage issues, to get the water to go around the house and then go back down behind the house.
Okay, so you've had this pad where the trailer's sitting in the photo in front of you, that's been there quite a while.
Been there for several years.
Okay,
I just
perfect.
couldn't afford at the time because I thought I had to put a wooden structure up. They're very expensive. I did look into, in past years, carports on Skyland and also 82 West. The prices were very expensive. I just couldn't afford it.
Sure.
A neighbor had sent me something recently before Labor Day, and this particular carport was on sale. It's a steel structure, a steel roof, and it was priced very reasonable, included taxes, installation. I could afford it. I had it in my savings account, and so I purchased it.
One thing I believe, I was trying to scribble it down, you mentioned hardship.
Yes.
Now, any financial consideration at all, and you were here, I believe, in my opening remarks, is not considered a hardship. Maybe a hardship to you, but for a legal definition per state code and the city ordinance which follows that, that is not something we can look at. Now, you mentioned if to get the 60-foot setback on the right, the bushes in front of you, you would probably they'd have to go away, and you would have to go closer to that area if you were to move this structure. I'll finish, you'll have an opportunity. Had you been aware, had you followed the ordinance that's been there that requires that 60-foot setback, the only place, I'm assuming, from this view, you would be able to put it is where you said you would remove the bushes. That may have cost you more. You may have had slope issues and drainage issues. That's probably very valid. But that's where you're choosing to do something, and to meet the code, you would have had to have set it there. Okay? That, had you followed the code, that's where, and you chose to follow through with this, that's where you would have set the carport. So I don't see that being a hardship there at all. I'm struggling with the hardship. You heard an earlier case where we honed in on that. So what is your hardship that is non-financial whatsoever?
Well, two things. The contractor that put the driveway in the parking area apparently wasn't aware of the variance either, and neither at the time. Just seemed just unaware of it. The hardship is the damage to my vehicles from these nuts falling on them. I can't park in the driveway. I need someplace to cover my vehicles, and I've put in the recent $747 accident report when these nuts fell on my Buick, my brand new Buick. I have struggled to park and not have damage to my vehicles.
Since you've lived there, is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
I've been fighting this since I lived there, and when I put the driveway in, the reason for the cement slab was to put a carport there, and I had fully intended to do it when I had the money and could afford it.
Have you ever pruned back any of the trees off of leaning on your property, like some of the limbs, kind of prune those back or anything like that?
I was told by the city that I could request that. I think that would infuriate my neighbors if I had someone come in and cut all those trees back. And I've not talked to my neighbor about that, but I've told that I can have that done. I just think that would cause a major issue and just cause problems for my neighbor.
So the
and
hardship, I'm sorry to interrupt, just so I've got it right, and the rest of my board members. The nuts falling on your car.
Yes.
Is this whole issue. Is that right?
And that's what I brought the nuts to show you. It's damaging my vehicles, and I consider that a hardship.
And one way to do it, regardless if it upsets anyone, under your control, is to have your trees cut, or your neighbor's trees, sky to ground on your property side of the property line where the nuts are falling from. You've opted out of doing that.
I have had the city, Alabama Power, come out, and I've also had the Comcast Cable come out, and they were reluctant to do that. It's not that I hadn't thought about
And
it.
most utilities aren't going to do it because tree trimming for that issue is not in their easement nor in their cost structure to pay for private tree trimming. That's the answer there.
Right.
So you had an option, you bought a house with mature trees, nuts have been falling for 15 years or however long you've been there.
Right, and mature trees is an issue because you're talking 18 years of growth.
Right.
So in 18 years, trees can grow
And I'm very
substantial.
familiar with trees and live with very large trees, and they
Right.
were pretty darn large when I bought my house 22 years ago. So I understand. I'm not trying to be quip about it, but that's it.
Well, in that situation, I've had that same scenario where things were falling on my car, and I had to pay to have the trees trimmed, and it was an expense that I had to incur. And so, that's kind of what you have to do. And them being upset, you're upset because your car has been damaged. So I don't know about you, but my being upset is more important to me than my neighbors if they're damaging my car. So we'd have to do what we have to do. So with this, the shed being put there, that makes sense, but that wasn't the place that it could be put. So you were gonna have to spend some money, either cut the trees or move the bushes. And so you opted to just put it kind of where you wanted to put it, and we can't just go along, we can't just do what we want to do just because we don't want to cut down bushes or upset our neighbors, you know what I mean? That's why we have code. So that's where I'm having a little issue with that. There were some other options. And when we were asking for a variance, if there are other options, then it's not a hardship because you had other options that you could have taken as opposed to just putting the shed right there. That's where you wanted to put it, and so.
Well, I understand. Between the tree and those bushes, it seemed like it was a space there to put that cement parking area. The trees are going to grow back. If I cut the limbs, they're going to grow back. It's just a matter of a year, and then they're going to grow back. And
I mean, it takes a little longer than a year for a limb to grow back. Like a limb doesn't just come back, it's some sprigs, and then for nuts to come on it. I mean, if you cut it back, like I've cut back limbs, because I had the same issue where things were falling on my car. And so I had to cut the limbs, and when I cut them, I mean, they still haven't grown back, and that's been like 3 or 4 years now. So it takes time for it to grow back and start having where the nuts are falling again. I mean, because it has to mature and grow the limb and have the nuts come. So I think that there were some other options that could have been taken, and I understand neighbors being upset, but if they're damaging your car and you take a bill over saying, hey, I need you to pay this or I'm gonna cut these trees, they'd probably be like, go ahead and cut the trees.
I think the other issue is allowing a bucket truck on the neighbor's property to cut back all these branches coming over into my property line, and I don't know that a neighbor's gonna allow a bucket truck or a tree trimmer to come into their property to do that.
They're professional, they know how to get it done. If you tell them what they gotta get done and if they can't go on that property, they'll figure out what to do. I mean, that's what they do. They figure out some type of way to get it trimmed or cut. If they gotta climb up and do it, they can make it happen. So I think that we're going back and forth over an issue that there is another solution to it. So I feel your pain, I do understand. But with code and enforcing, there were other options that we could have taken.
I have a question. Have you, have you discussed this with the neighbor? I mean, you've been there, I'm assuming it's the same person that has lived next door that owns the tree. Or that
No,
the tree
in
is on the-
fact, as far as I know, it's probably the neighbor that called the zoning board director to come out and send me a letter.
But you haven't discussed with your neighbor that the nuts falling off their tree are damaging your car?
Oh, I have, but not recently. I put the carport up thinking that was going to be the solution. I did not talk about the neighbor about his Mr. Palmer being okay with it.
The other question I have, is your other car white?
I'm sorry?
Is the other car you own, the new car, is it white?
No, it's black.
Black.
And I think we've got pictures of that. It's a brand-new Buick. There it is.
Okay, well, you said you had 2 cars.
Well, I'm sorry.
Because you said you...
I'm glad you
So
brought that
sorry.
up.
You
The pickup truck is in the garage. That's the one that was in the driveway and damaged and repaired. And then this one currently has damage to the hood. My 2 previous vehicles I've traded in just a few years ago, they were all damaged, had to be repaired. So I've been, it's been a struggle, and this seemed, I poured this cement area for a carport. I did not know about the 60-foot variance. And had I known that, the contractor at the time, would have moved it down, and I don't know how we would have leveled it because it is a sloping driveway. And, you know, now I'm at the point where I thought the carport was going to be okay. It seemed like a very practical solution, and now I'm finding out, you know, issues related to the permit, which I was told by the city and two of my neighbors that built carports in the last year that it wasn't required. And
What question did you ask when you called? What did you say?
I asked them, Peggy Canterbury, I might as well mention names, Peggy Canterbury and Elaine Barfield, both erected carports. I went to them and asked them if they had to have a permit. They said no. And they built nice big wooden ones.
So when you called the city, what did you say to them? What did you ask
I
them?
said, I'm putting up a carport at 64 Cherokee Hills. Do I need a permit to put up a carport? And they said no. I did not elaborate that it was a metal carport versus a wooden carport because I didn't know that that was an issue. I didn't know that that would matter.
But I think that, you know, when you call the city and you ask a question like that flat out about a permit, it's hard for me to believe that no one said, what kind of carport are you putting up? Because there are caveats. And so calling and just asking, do you need a permit? And they said no, and nobody asked you what any other questions that, you know, I'm not saying that you're not telling the truth, but it just sounds kind of different that, you know, because that's what they do all day. So it seems like they would ask you more questions. Well, okay, what kind of carport, where are you putting it? Like, that's the type of conversation that would happen. So I'm curious about where you called and who you talked to that would say no, just flat out like that.
And again, I don't recall the exact conversation because it was just a quick call because
basically getting some confirmation to what you've already been told is kind of.
Yeah, because both my neighbors had already erected them recently and had told me this, so I just called the 311 number and asked to talk to someone, and they said no. And in fact, this accessory structure language I was not even familiar with until I got a personal visit from Lester Walker, who had sent me a letter explaining the variance. And we took some measurements, and at that time, we were about 45 feet off the road to that corner. And, you know, between the tree and those bushes, it just seemed like the area where I could put the cement slab to put a carport on it. So I hope I answered your question.
I was just, you said you moved in the house in 2007?
2007, yes, but it had a gravel driveway. There was a lot of improvements to the house in terms of painting it and things like that. So the cement driveway went in many years later because it was over $12,000, I think, to put that cement driveway in.
So when you originally moved in, you kept both your cars in the garage, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I had a small.
Otherwise,
No, I
this
did. I had
wouldn't
a
be a
smaller.
new problem.
Yes, ma'am, I had a smaller vehicle, so parked in the garage. And, you know, and the nuts hit the house. You can hear these big hickory nuts because there are trees along, even in the back there, over that lean-to that Mr. Stewart talked about, and the trees lean over that way, and they hit the roof, and that's why I put the lean-to there.
Did you ever consider putting your carport or that part of your driveway on the side of your house?
There's not enough room. This is a 20 by 16 structure, wasn't enough room. And all this sort of was pre-planned when they put the driveway in. We thought, you know, pour the slab here, and this is where I could put up a carport. And I wish the contractor had known, but they didn't. And I didn't know, I didn't realize it at the time.
Are there any other questions? No. None? Did you have anything else you haven't already covered you'd like to share with us?
No, I just hope that you'll appreciate my hardship and my circumstances and understand that it is set off the road, 45 feet. It is aesthetic with the house. It's not in a front yard. It's not obstructing anything, city traffic or anything like that at all. And I thought I was doing something to help mitigate my hardship. So thank you.
Thank you. We do not have anyone signed up to speak either in favor or in opposition of the petition. Would anyone present like to come forward at this time to speak? No? Okay, in that case, we will close public discussion and move to a board comment, starting with Ms. Holt.
Mr. Shoemaker, I understand wanting to protect the investment of your vehicles, but we're being asked to vote on a variance to an accessory structure, And we need proof of a hardship in order to, or at least I do, in order to feel comfortable granting a variance. And I feel like there's a couple of other options that could have been explored with the location of the structure, or addressing the landscaping that's causing some of the issues before I would feel comfortable granting a variance for the structure. So for that reason, I'm not comfortable with approving the variance.
I agree with Ms. Holt. I don't feel, well, let me back up. The ordinance of a 60-foot setback on these structures is there to protect everyone. It's not specific about adding cover for a car or anything else. Even though these are deep lots, and they go well past the house that was shown from the plat earlier, when you're coming down the street, this is a very leafed green picture. Several of the pictures I looked at on Google Street View earlier, it was in a winter setting, like everywhere, 4 months out of the year here, foliage falls. This is a metal carport. I think it was in line to the petitioner's point that it matches the trim on his house, but it's a metal carport in the front yard. I can't speak for what homeowners in this neighborhood were for or against, but as a homeowner in the city of Tuscaloosa, I wouldn't want to look at something like this next to my primary investment of where I live every day. That's really why the ordinance was written that way. So, in that being said, I don't see any hardship. The customers had nuts falling from the sky from these trees, damaging his vehicles. This isn't something that just happened. That was a known fact once you got there and got hit a few times. Again, the knowledge specific to the ordinance, and if you were miscommunicated anyway for that, that's not a good thing. But that doesn't change why the ordinance is there. A hardship, I don't see this being a proven hardship by the petitioner when, to the petitioner's statement and point, this structure could go back and abide by the 60-foot setback closer to the house, but from what I heard, it would be more cost with the slope and removing of bushes there. And outside of that, to Ms. Holt's point, tree trimming was another option. So based on that, I don't see a hardship. Therefore, I cannot grant the variance.
I do have sympathy for you and empathize with you about this situation. I can see how frustrating it would be to have this and then not have a relationship enough with the neighbors that you could even talk to them about what's going on to be able to come up with some way to remedy this situation. You've made investment in your cars, you made investment in everything, but still financial hardship is not a reason enough for us. You invested money, but not in the right areas. It should have been to figure out what's going on, where to put it properly on the contractor should have known, and you did try to call and ask a question, but I hate that has happened to you, but that still doesn't negate the fact that it's a 60-foot setback, and there's no reason beyond financial that we couldn't do what was required, so I don't see the hardship here.
For all the reasons stated, I'm in agreement with the other board members. I'm not in favor.
Shoemaker again, like everyone else said, we do apologize. I do understand that this may be a hardship to you. But like my fellow board member said, that there are other options that you can explore. So I'm in agreement with my fellow board members that I'm not in favor of a variance.
If there are no other further comments, I'd move to reading of the petition, followed by a vote. In the matter of ZBA-113-23, Randall Shoemaker petitions for a variance from the accessory structure regulations to construct a carport on the property located at 64 Cherokee Hills, zoned R1 at Elcod in Council District 6. Voting with Ms. Holt.
No.
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 The petition failed.
Okay, moving on to our next case, ZVA 11423. Alex Hayslip petitions for a variance from the residential district regulations on the property located at 24 Lakeview, zoned RD1, Council District 2. So here's an aerial view of that property as well as the zoning. This is in Forest Lake. And then a closer aerial view. Here is a view of that existing structure. The applicable regulations, this is in the mixed residential district. The lot standards for these districts for what we would consider a single-family home, it's recognized as a detached house in the mixed residential code. The lot area minimum is 7,500 square feet. Petitioner is requesting a variance from the lot area requirements. The mixed-use residential district requires a minimum of 7,500 square feet for any structure, and then it just increases from that, excluding civic buildings. Petitioner plans to move forward with the subdivision process to straighten the existing lot line that is currently running through the house. The proposed lots would be approximately 7,250 square feet in area and would allow for 2 single-family homes to be constructed. Many of the homes in the surrounding area are single-family homes. If approved, the petitioner does plan to continue forward through the Planning Commission process to request for the official subdivision. So here is the preliminary plat. As you can see, the dotted line that runs along here is where that line exists today. And they just want to straighten that out and then allow for 2 individual single-family homes to be constructed. Do you have any questions for staff?
Are either one of these 7,500 now?
I'll let the petitioner talk a little bit more of that, but from my understanding and kind of our skewed view, the one that is in this area is a little over 7,500 square feet.
Ms. Hayes, can you go back? There was a overview that showed all the adjacent houses in the packet.
Yes.
Actually, it wasn't an aerial, it had measurements, street frontage.
Yes.
Do you have that?
I can pull it up when I get over there.
If you don't mind.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you, John. And this subdivision was platted well before zoning existed.
Correct.
So, based on the houses to the right of this pattern on the screen, the new widths would be in line with what's existing there.
Correct.
So all of those homes don't currently meet the 7,500.
Some of them do. So the mixed residential code was established after the tornado. So all of these homes were obviously built prior to 2011. Will you pull up the street view that I took looking down the street? So after the post-tornado zoning came in, there is a lot of homes that are within that conforming district, but also there aren't. The mixed residential code, the mixed use code that came in did create a lot of nonconformities as well. We've seen that. A lot of requests have been brought before the board in the past for similar situations of these nonconforming lots.
And this particular lot just has a very odd existing lot line, as does the one to the north, I believe, on that last.
Correct.
So there's really no explanation why those aren't congruent with
It was very strange in the way that it was platted with that skewed line. Even the house that's currently there was built over that line. It's something we wouldn't allow today.
Very similar to the north, if I have the orientation, yes, it's right. The house straight across the street, it's actually cut in the corner
Correct.
of one house.
And this shows a little bit better. Our aerial view doesn't show what we call a remnant lot line, so that lot line that's running through. This does a good job of showing that. That's where that existing line is. It's very skewed.
Okay.
But yes, just north of that, 17 and 18, lot 17 and 18, has a very similar situation.
So the lots 15, 16, 17, 13, 14, all the way down the block directly across the street would be very similar in the square footage as these would be if they're divided
Correct.
And it looks like 31 beside it
Yeah,
would be
okay.
similar.
I was just trying to get some perspective of what we're dealing with already on that block face. Okay, all right, thank you.
Do you have any more questions?
Mr. Hayslip?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Michael McGuire. I'm representing Mr. Hayslip. This is basically two existing lots that were developed in 1940. In 1943, they were resurveyed. Everything back to the west is 52 feet wide. Both of the lots we're proposing are going to be 51 feet wide, same depth as those lots. So we're just barely below the 7,500 square feet. We'd like to go back with two single-family homes. That's pretty much what's there now. That's pretty much what we're trying to do. Don't know that there's really anything else I could add to it. If y'all got any questions.
So that 51 foot will be dividing the lots equally.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Thank you. We do not have anyone signed up to speak either in favor or in opposition to this petition. Is there anyone present who would like to come forward? No? Okay, we'll close public comment and move to board discussion, starting with Ms. Holt.
Given some of the other properties around these lots, and that they are similar size, I don't have any issues with this variance. Even though they're under the 7,500 square feet, they're very close to that.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Holt. I think if this goes through forward and is approved tonight and goes to the Planning Commission, is recommended for approval, and the lot lines are corrected, I think you will be congruent and in line with multiple lots on this street. As Ms. Holt mentioned, it is slightly smaller than that requirement, which I think it's fair to say many of these homes don't meet that requirement today. So I'm in favor of granting the variance.
I agree with my fellow board members. I think this is going to be an upgrade to the area and that this fits with what's going on in the community now, so I'm in agreement.
I think it does fit in the neighborhood. It looks like it will be much of an improvement for this area. I am also in favor. How many square feet difference? It was
250.
like 250? And this was platted before the ordinances were around, so I'm in agreement.
I agree with my fellow board members. I'm in favor. I think it fits the characteristics of the neighborhood.
Yeah, and just to be clear, this requires a hardship. I think the obvious hardship is based on the 72 zoning and based on the mixed-use regulations post-tornado. It's kind of a double whammy on the original plat from the 40s. So that in of itself would deem this unbuildable if you follow that to the strict interpretation. So therefore, I think it's an obvious hardship. Any other comments? None? Okay, we'll move to a reading of the petition, followed by a vote. In the matter of ZBA-114-23, Alex Hayslip petitions for a variance from the residential district regulations on the property located at 24 Lakeview, zoned RD1 in Council District 2, voting with Ms. Holt.
Yes.
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 Petition passed.
All right, we'll move on to our short-term rental cases. The first one is ZBA 11523. Gail Weekly petitions for a special exception for a short-term rental of a historic district. This is at 1517 7th Street, Zone R3H, Council District 4. So here we have the aerial view and the zoning of that property, as well as a closer-up aerial view. This is a view of the surrounding short-term rentals in the general area. And here we have a view of the house from the street. These are just a closer up image of the parking area to the rear of the property. This request, the petitioner will be the primary point of contact and will be available 24 hours a day. This is the petitioner's first experience with short-term rentals. They do plan to install cameras, keypad locks for additional security measures. The house is a 3-bedroom, 3.5 bathroom house. It is not owner occupied, and whenever it's not being rented, they will use it for family reasons. The petitioner is requesting 6 adults and 4 vehicles. If approved, based on the parking, staff recommends 6 adults and 3 vehicles. We did receive at least 1 comment in opposition to the application, excuse me, and the petitioner is here to speak in person. Do you have any questions for staff?
Good evening. I'm Gail Weekly, and my husband, Johnny Weekly, and we purchased this house this summer. Our primary residence is in Memphis. We have 3 kids at the University of Alabama this year, a senior, a sophomore, and a freshman. And so we decided to buy this house initially just for us to have a place to land with 3 different move-in, move-out dates and parent weekends and such. It was actually cheaper to buy something than to rent. We love the house. We use it a lot. Almost every weekend we're here, or every other weekend at least. But now that football season is ending, we thought maybe we might want to rent it out to friends or friends of friends, word of mouth kind of thing. And so started doing a little bit of research and learned that you could not do that without permission. So that's what I'm here to do. The house is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath. I think it's, and 3.5 bath. I think it's perfect for a short-term rental. Our idea, like I said, is to rent it to parents of people who have children at the University of Alabama. We have a lot of friends in Memphis that come in town often. We've met other families in other parts of the country just through our kids' friends that I know would rent it. There's plenty of parking in the back. We've had 8 cars in the back where you can't see it all from the front. Plenty of room to turn around, even with a full set of cars in the back, so there's not a lot of backing out of the driveway. We have had the cameras already installed, probably since I did the application. We have a camera in the back. We also have a camera in the front, lights in the back that alert me 24 hours a day if anyone's gone back there. It's an audible camera that lets people know they're being recorded. I've had a fire inspector come out and install fire detectors, carbon monoxide detectors. I've had egress lighting installed. I have not had an inspection yet, but I understand I can have that after today. Do you have any questions of me?
I know in the previous slide, it said you hadn't had any experience with short-term rental in the past.
No, I do have a rental property in Memphis, and I rent to students, but I've never had a short-term rental.
So that's a standard long-term rental?
That's
Yeah.
correct, Rhodes College in Memphis.
And you mentioned you're going to be the 24-hour available contact if
Correct.
anything happens.
Yes.
Will you have a local contact?
I've got, so my daughter is a senior here and lives 2 blocks away. I have another daughter who is a sophomore that lives 1 block away, so people very close. I'm trying to think what kind of an emergency, but they can be over there in a minute if they needed to let someone in or unlock or those kinds of things.
But generally, when we talk about emergencies that typically happen at 2 a.m., that could be from an unruly guest, something tragic happening, the police involved, or a broken pipe, something, fire, God forbid, but something of a very immediate nature.
Right.
That would need to be dealt with. And is your senior, your daughter, I believe you said was a senior?
Correct.
Would she be able, is that your intention
She
for
would.
her
She's
to handle that scenario?
Very responsible, yes. Straight A student, going to law school in the fall, hopefully.
The parking, could we go, Jonathan, to the parking view? Yes. And then actually street view first, if you could. It's not always intuitive what you requested in people, size of the home, and the number of cars. I think it was 6'4" is what you were asking. Staff recommended on the other slide 6'3", and if you may not be that familiar with it, but we look at on a single lane drive, even though you have room to park more cars, I believe you said 8 at one point.
Yes.
With a single lane drive, what happens is someone's going to park in that driveway. That's human nature. They might pull up right there legally off the street, walk in the front door. So for anyone else to move, that means a car has to move out. So what that helps limit, and we also look at the bedrooms, which you've stated were 3. So that's why staff is recommended from our engineering office 6-3.
What does that mean, 6-3? Oh, if
3
6-3
cars, 6
pull-
adults.
Okay,
3
3
cars.
cars for the 6 people.
And generally, it's been our experience around this and talking to a lot of people who were approved to do this. Most people don't all come in one car, generally speaking. Couple, a family, a couple of couples, whatever. So it's the biggest thing is parking is horrible in this area, especially available street parking. So, and that's not allowed if you're approved, period.
Right.
But the human nature, if someone backs out, they might wheel into that spot right there and not bother waiting and going back in. So that's why that kind of limits that on parking, just so that's
Understood.
clear.
Yes.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Weekly? None? Do you have anything else for us?
No,
Thank you.
thank you.
We do not have anyone signed up to speak either in favor or opposition. Would anyone in the audience like to come forward? No, and just to confirm, Ms. Hayes, you said there was one, or Mr. or Jonathan, was one in opposition? Okay. Email, okay. In that case, we're closing public comment and moving to board discussion, starting with Ms. Holt.
As you could see from one of the aerial shots, there's a lot of short-term rentals in this area. I think it's an area that is well utilized with short-term rentals for your exact reasons with parents of students coming into town. And so for that reason, I have no issues with this special exception with the 6 adults and 3 vehicles.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Holt's comment. When you look anywhere near the campus, it's obvious that's where you're going to find the preponderance of short-term rentals that have been approved legally concentrated. I think this map lends to that. It's a good fit for the use. Based on Ms. Weekly's comments, she said she would be very selective on who she rents to. I think that benefits you as a homeowner for your investment, as well as, having scrutiny over who's going to be in the neighborhood and impacting the community. That being said, I'm in favor of granting 6 adults, 3 vehicles, 30 nights in a 1-year probationary period. If you are approved, you would have to come back if you chose to do so in front of this body, and you potentially could ask for more nights and a longer permit period.
I'm in agreement as well. 6 adults, 3 vehicles, 30 nights, 1 year probation.
I appreciate the fact that Ms. Weekly took a risk in moving in a historic district and an expense, because it can be a little dicey, especially as you get closer to the stadium when making an investment. I am in favor of 6 adults, 3 vehicles, 30 nights for the first calendar year.
I agree with my fellow board members. I'm in favor as well.
If there's no further discussion, we'll move to a reading of the petition followed by a vote. In the matter of ZBA-115-23, Gale Weekly petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property in a historic district located at 1517 7th Street, zoned R3H in Council District 4, subject to the following conditions: a maximum of 6 adults, a maximum of 3 vehicles parked off-street, a maximum of 30 nights in a 1-year probationary period. Voting with Ms. Holt.
Yes.
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 Petition passed.
Next case is ZBA 11623, YFM Realty petitions for a special exception for a short-term rental at 2820 16th Street. This is zoned R4 in Council District 1. So here we have the zoning and the aerial view of the property. well as a closer-up image of that aerial view. We do not have any short-term rentals in the surrounding area. And here we have a view of the house from the street, as well as a close-up of the parking area. Lakeisha Crawford and Alexis Davis will be the primary contacts in case of emergency. This is the petitioner's first experience with managing short-term rental. However, they do have experience with long-term rentals. For additional security measures, they plan to install cameras, fire carbon monoxide alerts, as well as sign disclaimers. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. It is not owner-occupied, and the house will only be used for short-term rental. The petitioner is requesting 5 to 6 adults with 5 vehicles. If approved, based on the parking, staff recommends 4 adults and 2 vehicles. We did receive 1 comment in support of this application. We do have the petitioner here in person.
Any questions? Nope. Thank you.
How you doing? I'm Leonard Jones.
And what is your address?
My home address,
Or your business address? either.
618 James I. Harrison Jr. Parkway.
Okay. And it was Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Jones, tell us a little bit about your plan with the property if it's approved.
We're gonna be using it for short-term rental. We're gonna be targeting like football games and things of that matter. And I actually been out promoting. If I get approved, gonna be working with the cheerleaders, and some of the parents are gonna be renting out.
If you could, Ms. Hayes, or go back to the street view of the property, please. So is it brand-new construction or a remodel?
Remodel.
Okay. Well, it looks good. I guess the house next door is going through a remodel as well?
Yes, sir.
I mentioned in the earlier comments, you and your company didn't have experience with short-term, but did with long-term. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the 2 names, I think it was 2 ladies' names that were on the screen earlier, they're going to be, are they local here in town?
Yes, I'm also local too.
Okay.
And I also own a business probably about 3 miles away. So if it's something that happened through the middle of the night, we normally close about 3 in the morning. So if something drastic happened, I'm right around the corner.
So between you and the other 2 ladies, everything would be handled?
Yes, sir.
For an emergency, okay. The parking is a single lane width from what's in front of us?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as I spoke to the previous petitioner, that's a limiting factor on the number of vehicles we allow. We don't let them stack more than 2 cars in a single lane scenario like this. Of course, off-street parking, if it's approved, is mandatory. But are there any other questions?
On your trash bin, this doesn't have anything to do, well, it will have to do with short-term rental because they'll have to use the trash. Where do you usually keep it?
The trash?
Yes, sir, the trash bin, the green trash bin.
With the extra trash or the trash can?
The one that's in this
The one
picture.
that's in the,
It's a space right in front of that car where the trash can is.
okay, that was my question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And just one more question for me, Mr. Jones. Have you prepared a list of rules and regulations to be
Yes, sir.
posted? Okay, you've got that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are there any other questions, Mr. Jones? And do you have anything else for us?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, we do not have anyone signed up to speak either in favor or in opposition of the petition. Would anyone present like to come forward? If that being the case, we will close public comment and move to board discussion, starting with Ms. Holt.
It sounds like all the criteria we request with posting rules and other things with the house have been met, and so I don't have any problem with this special exception with 4 adults, 2 vehicles, 30 nights for the first year.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Holt on the conditions. You know, the house looks good. It was remodeled. I think it's a good refreshed asset for the street and the community. Based on Mr. Jones' comments, short-term's new, but they are familiar, he and his company, with long-term rentals. So that being said, I'm in favor of approving it.
I agree with my fellow board members. 4 adults, 2 vehicles, 30 nights for 1 year probationary period.
I agree. 4 adults, 2 vehicles, 1 year, 30 nights.
I agree with my fellow board members. I'm in favor as well.
Okay, if there are no further comments from the board, we'll move to a reading of the petition followed by a vote. In the matter of ZBA-116-23, YFM Realty LLC petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 2820 16th Street, zoned R4 in Council District 1, subject to the following conditions: 4 adults, 2 vehicles parked off-street, 30 nights maximum in a 1-year probationary period, voting with Ms. Holt.
Yes.
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 The petition passed.
Moving on to ZBA's 11723. Ellen Maxwell petitions for a special exception for a short-term rental of a property at 5900 New Watermelon Road. This is on R1 Council District 3. So here we have an aerial view as well as the location of the property. Here's a closer-up aerial view of the property. We do not have any surrounding short-term rentals in this area. And here we have a close-up image of the house. You can't really see the house from the public right-of-way. It's kind of tucked back, but we do have some pictures of the parking area. And then this picture here is from the back, facing back towards the road. So you see all the trees and brush. This request is for Robert McNeely. He will be the primary contact in case of emergency. This is the petitioner's first experience with a short-term rental. However, they do have experience with commercial and residential rental properties for over 20 years. They do plan to install keypad locks for additional security measures. This is a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. It is not owner-occupied. It will be used for family when it's not being rented. They are requesting 8 adults and 4 vehicles. If approved, based on the ample parking, staff recommends 8 adults and 4 vehicles. We did receive 1 comment in opposition to this application, and we do have the petitioner here in person.
Thank you.
Mr. McNally?
Good evening. Ellen Maxwell. This is a log cabin in the woods. My husband and I live directly adjacent to the home. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath home, and we would like to do some short-term rentals in the property.
Can you go back to the aerial, please? So based on your the report earlier, this will be your first venture in short-term rental. And you are in the home adjacent to the right of this?
Correct. Yeah, we live on about 6.5 acres, and the cabin's on 6.5 acres.
You're getting ready to see a lot of construction on top of what's happening out front.
Yes, a lot, yes.
Okay. No, that's great. I'm familiar with the area, but didn't have any idea of that lot. Being right there in that curve is so hidden, the new cabins. I think that's a great setting and a lot of privacy. You mentioned commercial and residential rental, so you're well ingrained in the rental process.
Yes, sir.
So, and I missed earlier, I said McNally.
Yes, my husband's Robert McNally.
Robert McNally. We lived at 5920 New Watermelon Road.
Right. And you, the two of you are going to be next door, so y'all would be on the spot contact for anything that would happen.
Yes, sir.
Do you plan on being local when each and every time it's rented?
We
later?
do, yes.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Anything else for us?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we do not have anyone signed up to speak either for or against the petition. Is anyone left? No? We will close public comment and move to board discussion. Ms. Holt.
I pass this every day, and until this was submitted, had no idea there was a log cabin back there. What, are y'all the same?
No, you passed the university.
I do. I drive university, but this is right around the corner from my house, so very cool house back there. Even though there aren't any other short-term rentals in the area, I don't have any issue with this. When I first saw that 8 adults and 4 vehicles, that was a little concerning until I realized how much property there was. So I don't have any issues with this special exception.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Holt. Great location and cool property. The pictures, I believe 6 acres. That helps with a short-term rental, especially with 8 adults if this is granted. Even if someone's out on the patio or the deck enjoying, relaxing with friends there, you're not subject to being a hindrance as you are right next door to someone else. I mean, we manage it, but this is really a perfect scenario for a hidden wooden location. Mm-hmm. Plenty of parking, plenty of size in the home. I'm very comfortable in granting, based on the conditions, or special condition of 8 adults, 4 vehicles, 30 nights in 1 year.
To me, 8 and 4 is always a party, but this is the best place to have it. It's like normally I'm like no, but this is the place to have 8 and 4. And with it being your first time, I'm normally like, oh, this is their first time, but this would be the exception. It's 8 adults, 4 vehicles, 30 nights, 1 year. So I'm in favor.
I'm also in favor. I like Ms. Coley, when you start getting to 8 and 10 people and that many cars put under and I'm embarrassed that until I read the petition, my daughter lives in a neighborhood touching this, and I had no idea that was there. Mm-hmm. So I am absolutely in favor. I think it is a good location for a short-term rental.
I agree with my fellow board members. I'm in favor as well.
Okay, if there are no further comments from the board, we'll move to a reading of the petition followed by a vote. In the matter of ZBA-118-23, excuse me, I skipped ahead. In the matter of ZBA-117-23, Ellen Maxwell petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 5900 New Watermelon Road, zoned R1 in Council District 3, subject to the following conditions: a maximum of 8 adults, a maximum of 4 vehicles parked off-street, a maximum of 30 nights, and a 1-year probationary period. Voting with Ms. Holt.
Yes.
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 Petition passed.
All right, moving on to ZBA 118-23, Adam Lewis petitions for a special exception for a short-term rental located at 19 Brook Meadows Circle. This is zoned R4 in Council District 7. So here we have the zoning and an aerial view of that property, as well as a closer-up aerial view. We do have several short-term rentals in this area, as well as a few in this neighborhood. Here we have a closer-up image of the house, as well as some of the parking right out front. And then we have just another image showing existing parking around the complex. So this request is for Julia Lewis. She will be the primary contact in case of an emergency. This is the petitioner's first experience with short-term rental. However, they do have experience with long-term rentals. For additional security measures, they plan to install a Ring doorbell as well as a keypad entry. This is a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. It is not owner-occupied, and it will be primarily used by family when it's not being rented. The petitioner is requesting 8 adults and 4 vehicles. Based on the parking, staff recommends 6 adults and 3 vehicles. We did not receive any public comment for this application, and we do have the petitioner here in person.
Thanks.
Hello, board.
Hi.
My name is Adam Lewis. I live at 1620 Plantation Road, 35405. We've had this property as a long-term rental and had difficulty finding 4 different people to come together and do another year. So we decided to try our hand at short term. We have more experience in long-term rentals. Our first family home, when my wife and I got married, we moved in a different spot and we turned that into a long-term rental. So I will be the person. We live 3 to 5 minutes away from the property. Julie, my wife, will be the contact person, and if anything goes down, I'll be the one going over there. We've already installed the Ring doorbell, 2 cameras, keypad entry, all our smoke and carbon monoxide. I'm a home builder, so I made sure everything's up to code, so we're ready to go on that. That's about it.
Yeah, Mr. Lewis, do you have rules and regulations?
Yes, sir.
posted?
She's already printed everything out.
Okay.
I've got that. I can show that to y'all as well.
And like I said, either you or your wife will be in tandem taking care of anything.
That's right. Yeah, we are with regard to parking. I've paid attention on the previous petitions, but we are already allowed 4 spots, and it's a 4-3. So I don't know if that affects anything, but we're allotted 3 directly in front of the property, and then 1 in that side that y'all had a picture of directly across from the property. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and we've had several, as the map shown there, so we've kind of been down that road.
Mm-hmm.
What we've done per staff's recommendations here and the dynamics, it's probably going to rent more during football season.
That's
Generally
right.
speaking, everybody who's there is friends and family are coming into town,
That's right.
so kind of gets to a max capacity scenario. And this is a little different parking layout, like you said, but we still tend to stay with staff's recommendation on 6 adults and 3 cars.
All right.
Anything else you'd like to offer?
I think that's it.
As I recall, because we've already allowed some short-term rental there, the parking spaces are not identified that they belong to a particular building.
That's correct.
I
That's
just
correct.
wanted to make sure that I drive by there every day,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never seen a parking problem there, but I just didn't know if that had.
I'm on the board of the HOA board, and so I'm in tune with everything that's going on with the property. So
But they're not
they
specific.
are not labeled.
They're not specific.
No, ma'am.
All right.
That's right.
Any other questions? Thank you. Okay, we do not have anyone signed up to speak either in favor or in opposition of the petition. Would anyone else like to come forward at this time? No, we will now close public comment and move to board discussion, starting with Ms. Holt.
I think this one seems pretty straightforward, especially since you've already been using it as a rental property. I have no concerns granting the special exception with the 6 adults, 3 vehicles, and 30 nights for the first year.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Holt. I don't have any qualms based on the petitioner statements and his involvement as an owner and on the board of the HOA and understanding the dynamics of the property. I'm in favor of granting it.
I'm in favor as well. 6 adults, 3 vehicles, 30 nights for 1 year on the probationary period.
For everything stated, I'm in agreement too.
I agree with my fellow board members. I'm in favor.
Okay, if there are no further comments, we'll move to a reading of the petition followed by a vote. ZBA-118-23, Adam Lewis petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 19 Brook Meadows Circle, zoned R4 in Council District 7, subject to the following conditions: a maximum of 6 adults, a maximum of 3 vehicles parked off public street, a maximum of 30 nights, and a 1-year probationary period. Voting with Ms. Holt.
Yes.
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 Petition passed.
We'll move on to our last case of the night, ZBA 11923. Chandra Parker petitions for a special exception for a short-term rental. This is at 20 Dogwood Lane, Zone R1 in Council District 7. Here we have the zoning and the aerial view of the property, and a closer-up aerial view of that property. We do not have any short-term rentals in this area. And here we have a view of the house from the street and a closer-up image of that parking area. This is for Lionel Grant. Lionel Grant will be the primary contact in case of an emergency. The petitioner resides in Birmingham, will also be available 24 hours a day. This is the petitioner's first experience managing a short-term rental. However, they have experience working property management company in the past. For additional security measures, they plan to install cameras, keypad locks, and an ADT home security system. This is a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. It is not owner-occupied. It will be used by family members when it's not being rented. The petitioner is requesting 6 adults and 3 vehicles. Based on the parking, staff recommends 6 adults, 3 vehicles. We did receive a comment in support and a comment in opposition for this petition, and we do have the petitioner here in person.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi. My name is Chandra Parker, 20 Dogwood Lane, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, 35405 is the address. First of all, I am a graduate of the University of Alabama Capstone College of Nursing, and it requires me to travel a lot back to Tuscaloosa for several reasons. One, for engagements at the university. Second one, I help the friend that is going to be helping manage the property with his business here in Tuscaloosa. And I have a cousin who plays soccer for the University of Alabama and a best friend whose daughter is a freshman at the University of Alabama, which she's already got a notice saying that, hey, after your freshman year, housing is no longer guaranteed. So this may end up being a rental for her next year, you know, when she, if she wants to, or if she's not able to find other housing. So out of necessity, I bought this short-term rental, or I bought this property and renovated it, and here I am, so. And as far as I think it's the petitioner states the plan installed, so ADT has already come out, so I have cameras on the premises, keypad lock, and home security, so. Any more questions?
Yes, ma'am. Have you gotten rules and regulations prepared?
I do.
All right. And those will be posted there. And I think back to the statement on the screen, Mr. Grant will be that primary local contact for
Yes.
emergencies?
Yes.
Okay. And there's potential that you may rental, use it as a long-term rental down the road if you choose to,
Yes.
which is fine. Are there any other questions for the petitioner? Did y'all did you have anything else for us?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, there's no one signed up to speak either for or against. I don't think anyone's left in the audience but us. I think we'll close public comment and go to board discussion.
Thanks for hanging in there with us tonight, Ms. Parker. This one, again, is another straightforward. I have no concerns with the special exception with the 6 adults, 3 vehicles, and 30 nights for the first year.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Holt. Very straightforward. The picture from the street view of the property looks great, so you did a good job in keeping it up and getting it renovated from what you stated. I'm in favor with the same conditions Ms. Holt stated.
I agree with my fellow board members, 6 adults, 3 vehicles, 30 nights, 1 year for your probationary period.
I agree, 6 adults, 3 vehicles, 30 nights, and 1 year.
I agree with my fellow board members. I'm in favor.
Okay, if there are no further comments, we'll move to a reading of the petition, followed by a vote in the matter of ZBA-119-23. Chandra Parker petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 20 Dogwood Lane, zoned R1 in Council District 7, subject to the following conditions: a maximum of 6 adults, a maximum of 3 vehicles parked off-street, a maximum of 30 nights in a 1-year probationary period. Voting with Ms. Holt.
Yes.
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 Your petition passed. Thank you. All right. No further business. We're adjourned.
Just help me out here.